Good afternoon. So this is my very brief conversation about my approach to League's Raging Echoes. As you can see, I'm currently playing the group Ironman. It is 4 minutes past 4 in the afternoon of Monday. League's releases on Wednesday. I will be at work, but I will be looking to stream a large amount of the progress that I'm going to be making over the next couple of weeks, just to keep friends up to date. I love this game. I love limited time game modes. It's going to be something that I'm going to invest quite heavily in. So I'm quite keen to have a very brief conversation about the decisions that I'm making around regions, relics, combat masteries, just to give people a bit of a heads up as to my approach that I'm going to be working with for the next 8 weeks, and some of the time that I've got to be able to dedicate to the game. So thank you for joining me in this interesting journey. So I wanted to start with the regions that I'm going to be working with. And the regions I'm currently looking at are Taranwin, Mauritania, and then I'm a little bit undecided as to whether I'm going to go to Varlamore or to Zaya. Varlamore has the benefit of being content that is relatively new to the game, relatively exciting. I haven't spent any time in the Colosseum, so that's something that I'd be quite keen to pick up in a Leagues because I'm not all too familiar with. The same goes for Zaya. That started a couple of years ago, but I have not spent a whole lot of time in Zaya. I did the very bare minimum. I've paid my dues in Wintertodd a couple of times, but it's not particularly content that I've engaged with heavily recently on the group Ironman, so it's something that I'm particularly interested in. So to start, Taranwin. I'm a big fan of the Gauntlet as an Ironman. It's the Red Prison, somewhere that I've spent a small amount of time, but somewhere that I'd like to get a little bit better with. So Taranwin is a relatively obvious choice, alongside the benefits that come with crystal armor, improved drop rates. Zulrah is another key one that I'm looking to get. I'll come on to that a little bit more with the combat masteries that I've chosen. Taranwin starts to make quite a lot of sense from that perspective. Moving then into Mauritania as my second choice. I wanted to unlock the raid, which I'll be doing second, because that gets me the most amount of time in the raid zone, but without it necessarily being where I need to do my initial gear up. So I wasn't particularly keen on dropping straight into Maury, gearing up in Barrows and then running straight into TOB. I'll be running TOB with a couple of friends, both that I've worked with previously and people that I play the game with now. So picking TOB was a bit of a no-brainer. The other choice was Cox, Zaya, which is why it's still a little bit on my possible choices for my third region, but I've run some TOA recently, so that's not something I feel the need to expose myself to in Leagues over the next 8 weeks. As for relics, most of these feel pretty easy decisions for me. Some of them are a little bit up in the air, as you can see on the left hand side. First one I'm picking is Animal Wrangler. As someone who's not particularly PvM focused in this game, not particularly capable, but does enjoy a bit of a chillscape from time to time, Animal Wrangler is a bit of a no-brainer for me. I'm enjoying the aspect of the red chins coming guaranteed, especially with picking Taranwin. I'm enjoying the idea that I'm going to be able to save up quite a large amount of food to stockpile, and that comes with Banker's Note later on down the line. And the other options, whilst Power Miner seems like something that could be interesting, especially with Blowpipe and Amethyst, that's not going to be my first pick. To enable me to get into the game pretty heavily, Animal Wrangler felt like the natural choice for me. Flowing pretty quickly into Friendly Forager, again, I'm just engaging in the content that I like and that will enable me to get to the point I want to in the game, which is trying content that I don't have a lot of familiarity with. That's the next logical choice for me. For tier 3 for transportation, Clue Compass seems like the meta choice at this point in time. I'm enjoying clues with the group Ironman at this point in time, and also the utility coming with some of those teleports is going to be quite impressive. That, alongside the bank one doesn't really provide me with content outside or that deviates massively from the main game, so that's not of particular interest. And then fairy rings and tool leprechauns, again, somewhat content I've either experienced in previous leagues or something that's in the main game. So I want to take a little bit step outside of the boundaries, but still having that good utility. So Clue Compass was a fairly natural choice for me as well. Tier 4 with the reveal yesterday, day before, that you can pick an earlier level tier. That might allow me to go back and kind of fix some of those questionable decisions that I'd made earlier on. Golden God, I can't remember whether that's tier 4 or tier 6, but the alternative here was not particularly interesting to me at this point. But definitely picking up Power Miner or Dodgy Dealings might enable me to kind of fix some of that league's progression that I'm looking to get kind of in the middle of the league. So that one I might experiment with, and it might alter with some of the additional reveals that come out. Again, as with everyone's pre-leagues theory crafting, this is very likely to change up until the release time and date. Banker's Note against Total Recall. Again, I'm not particularly good at PVM, so I'm probably going to rely relatively heavily on Banker's Note as something that kind of pulls me through some of the more challenging content. Total Recall, whilst very interesting and something that I could definitely get behind, is not something that particularly appeals to me. That instant teleport kind of mechanic doesn't really extend much further out of my experience of the game, so it didn't feel particularly natural. Banker's Note was relatively obvious for me. Overgrown, I'm a big fan of farming. I'm not particularly good at remembering to do farm runs, so Overgrown is going to come in clutch. I'd like to see a 99 being Herblore in this league. So that feels pretty achievable with something like Overgrown. And then tier 7, they really came at us with some of these. Last Stand feels like a really great gimmick, but extending beyond a gimmick into that realm of being able to push content that I'm not familiar with. But Guardian being aimed at those 20-somethings with no life, that somewhat me, with the limited amount of time that I get to play and the time that I am able to play is not particularly social hours. Guardian might come in clutch for some of that content, especially where it's solo driven. So Colosseum, I'm going to see a lot of value from Guardian. So that's a pick. Combat Masteries, this one felt like a no-brainer. The moment this was released, I've always been fairly balanced across the combat triangle, if ever so slightly mage heavy. Ranged was a pretty obvious pick for me, especially with the raids being dropping all 3 mega rares. I was pretty keen to get my hand on a Twisted Bow, and the power that comes with that with T6 range is just astonishing. I'm going to enjoy not missing. I'm going to enjoy having some pretty large hits, some pretty consistent hits with that minimum hit splat. And then the remaining balance of the Combat Masteries 7 through 10. I'm not particularly liking my odds at being able to pick up all of those, especially if I pick Valamore. The likelihood that I'm going to pick my 10th one, having defeated 3 Echo bosses, I think it unlikely I'm going to be able to get all that way. So melee and kind of not diversifying across melee and mage felt pretty obvious again to myself. As it stands, these are all open to change, though it would have to be pretty game-changing for me to revert on some of these choices, some of the more obvious ones. Regions is very likely to fall down one way or another, especially with the Valamore Zaya pick. It really depends on where some of the people that I'm going to be playing with are going to go. The social aspect of this game, especially with the people that I play with, is quite important, so making sure that I pick ones that at least have us interacting with somewhat similar content is going to be clutch for me. That's a bit of a background on some of the decisions that I'm making. I'm looking forward to dipping my toe into streaming I'm going to try to be live all of Friday, some of the early part of Saturday, and then again between Christmas and New Year I've got a whole nother day dedicated that I'm going to be able to kind of pull the cat out of the bag and really see some genuine progress. When it comes online on Wednesday, I'm going to be in meetings all day, so it's not going to be something that I'm going to engage with straight away. Hopefully that means I don't miss, hopefully it means I do miss a large amount of the initial rush, and some of the content will open up. I know those early tasks can be a little bit challenging to compete for, so maybe picking this up late Thursday, early Friday is going to be to my benefit. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all come along, join, spend some time with me, and just hang out. I'm looking forward to playing the game and talking to people, and that's what I'm hoping to get out of it, is some pretty great experiences and a pretty great community. So thanks all for your time.